What would you do if the one you love disappeared, leaving only silence and longing behind? In this heartfelt story, Tieu finally receives news that her beloved Truong is still alive after endless days of searching. Her heart, once heavy with sorrow, finds peace again as she imagines their reunion. Harvesting fruit, laughing under the sun, and living simply, side by side. It's a story of faith, hope, and love that endures even through distance. Double heart symbol. Subscribe now and follow Tieu's emotional journey, a tale that will touch your heart and remind you that love always finds its way home. After countless days of wandering from one village to another, searching every winding road and asking every passerby, Tieu finally heard the news she had been praying for. Truong was alive. For a long moment, she just stood there in the middle of the small yard, unable to move, her hands trembling slightly, as if afraid that this fragile piece of hope might shatter if she dared to believe it too quickly. The afternoon sun was gentle that day, spilling golden light over the tiled roof and the garden where the last few blossoms swayed in the breeze. The sound of cicadas echoed softly, like a distant song that had been waiting for her heart to calm. For the first time in weeks, she could breathe without the weight of despair pressing on her chest. The days before had been harsh and lonely. Every morning, she woke up with her heart full of questions. Where was he now? Was he safe? Did he still remember her? Nights were even worse, filled with silence and the whisper of the wind through the bamboo grove. There were moments when she almost gave up, when she thought the world had taken him from her forever. But now, standing in the warmth of the afternoon light, the burden she had carried so long seemed to melt away. She closed her eyes and let the wind brush across her face, carrying with it the scent of ripened fruit and wildflowers. It was as if the whole world was breathing again, softly, peacefully, in rhythm with her heart. Tears welled up in her eyes, but they were not tears of sorrow anymore. They were tears of relief, of quiet gratitude. She remembered the first time she met Truong, how his laughter had filled the empty spaces in her heart, how his hands, rough from years of farm work, had always been gentle when they held hers. And now, knowing that he was out there somewhere, alive, maybe even thinking of her in this very moment, brought a calm she had long forgotten. Tieu slowly sat down on the old wooden bench by the garden. The evening sun touched her shoulders, wrapping her in warmth. She looked toward the distant hills, the same hills she had crossed in her desperate search for him. And for the first time, they didn't seem so far or so cruel anymore. The wind rustled the leaves above her, whispering something soft, almost like his voice calling her name. She smiled faintly, and for the first time since he had disappeared, her heart was at peace. She whispered into the fading light, "You're alive, Truong. That's all I need to know." And as the first stars began to appear, Tieu finally allowed herself to rest, letting hope settle gently in her soul, tender, fragile, but beautifully alive. That night, Tieu sat by the dim glow of the oil lamp, her hands gently cupping a warm bowl of tea. The soft flame flickered, casting golden light on her face and making the shadows in the small room dance like distant memories. Outside, the crickets sang their endless song, and the moonlight filtered through the window, bathing everything in a silvery calm. Her heart was still fluttering with disbelief and relief, and yet, beneath it all, there was a quiet joy blooming, a joy she hadn't dared to feel for so long. She closed her eyes, and her imagination painted the scene she had dreamed of countless times. Truong walking down the narrow dirt path that led to her gate, his familiar silhouette outlined by the morning sun. She could almost hear his voice, deep and gentle, calling her name, Tieu knew, the way he always did, full of warmth and affection. In her mind, she ran toward him, her feet barely touching the ground, her laughter echoing like wind chimes in the breeze. He would smile, that soft, reassuring smile she loved so much, before wrapping her in his arms. Then the scene shifted, the two of them standing in the orchard, surrounded by rows of fruit trees heavy with ripened oranges and mangoes. She could see him climbing the ladder to pluck the highest fruit, while she stayed below, teasing him for being too slow. His laughter would fill the air, bright and carefree, while sunlight danced across the leaves. She imagined the sticky sweetness of the fruit juice on their hands, their laughter mingling with the hum of bees and the rustle of the wind. Every sound, every scent of that dream felt so real that her heart ached with longing. She pictured the mornings that would follow, the two of them side by side at the market, baskets filled with fresh fruit. He would arrange the fruits carefully, always taking his time, while she greeted the customers with her soft, cheerful voice. She could almost hear their quiet conversations between sales, the way he would lean closer to whisper something that made her blush. In those imagined mornings, there was no pain, no fear, only the simplicity of love, the sweetness of living, and the comfort of being together again. As these visions played in her mind, Tieu felt her lips curve into a smile. It was a tender, fragile smile, the kind that blooms after too many tears. The oil lamp flickered lower, but its light seemed brighter than before, reflecting the quiet hope in her eyes. She knew she was only dreaming, but to her, it didn't matter. The thought of him returning, of sharing those simple moments again, was enough to keep her heart alive. She whispered softly, as if afraid to break the spell, "When you come back, Truong, I'll be waiting right here, under the same moon, with all my love." And somewhere deep inside, she believed he could hear her. The next morning, Tieu woke to the gentle chorus of birds outside her window. Sunlight streamed through the thin curtains, spilling warmth across the room and touching her face like a quiet blessing. For a moment, she simply lay there, listening to the sounds of life returning, the rustle of leaves, the clatter of distant footsteps, and the soft hum of wind brushing through the bamboo grove. Everything felt different now. The air seemed lighter, the colors brighter. It was as if the world itself had taken a deep breath after a long silence, just as she had the night before. She stepped outside, her bare feet meeting the cool earth of the small courtyard. The scent of dew lingered in the morning air, mingling with the faint aroma of ripening fruit from the orchard. Tieu took a slow, steady breath and felt a quiet peace bloom inside her. Truong was alive. Somewhere beyond the horizon, he was walking under the same sky, breathing the same air. That single truth gave her the strength to keep going. She walked to the garden, the hem of her dress brushing against the grass still wet with dew. The fruit trees stood tall and green, their branches heavy with promise. She began tending to them, gently brushing away dust from the leaves, tying up branches that had drooped under the weight of the fruit. Each movement was tender, deliberate, as though she was nurturing not just the garden, but her heart. She imagined Truong's hands joining hers again, the two of them working side by side as they once had. The thought made her smile, soft and unguarded. As the morning sun climbed higher, Tieu paused to wipe the sweat from her brow. Her gaze drifted toward the distant hills, the same one she had crossed so many times in search of him. But now, instead of sadness, there was gratitude. Every hardship, every sleepless night had led her here, to this fragile, beautiful moment of hope. She realized then that love wasn't only about being together, it was also about faith, about waiting and believing even when the path ahead was uncertain. She steps down beneath the largest tree in the orchard, where the breeze was cool and the shadows gentle. The leaves above whispered softly, and she imagined they were carrying her thoughts to him, her dreams, her longing, her quiet joy. A single tear slipped down her cheek, not of sorrow, but of peace. She whispered into the wind, "I'll keep living, Truong. I'll care for this home, for everything we built. When you return, it'll all be waiting just as you left it." The wind stirred, brushing her hair across her face, as if answering her promise. Tieu smiled again, her eyes glimmering beneath the sunlight. The world moved on, and so did she, with hope in her heart, love in her hands, and the unshakable faith that someday, somewhere, two souls would find each other again.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Lý Tưởng Linda Review. Vậy là tập phim của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Trong tập phim ngày hôm nay thì Lý Tiểu Nữ đã hình dung ra được lúc mà Trường, người yêu của cô, quay trở lại thì đó sẽ là một khoảnh khắc cô cảm thấy hạnh phúc nhất trong cuộc đời. Và cô và Trường sẽ có những giây phút ngồi lại bên nhau trò chuyện và thân thiết và gần gũi với nhau. Liệu rằng mong ước đó của cô có sắp thành hiện thực hay không? Tất cả những tình tiết hấp dẫn sẽ còn được kể ở các câu chuyện tiếp theo. Các bạn hãy bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh nha. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn vào tập sau. Bye bye.